Corporates today are making innumerable efforts in order to maintain a positive mental health at the workplaces by conducting various seminars, workshops, having open dialogues and discussions around this subject. However, it is seen that still many employees find it very difficult to maintain a healthy work life balance because many things still remain unsaid and unspoken. So today we discuss this topic of mental health at workplaces with Aparajitha Venkateswaran, who is a soft skills trainer and a psychologist. Please share this episode with all the people you think might benefit from this and show your support for this initiative of Hashtag's Human Library Podcast, the Mental Health series, by subscribing to our channel. Until then, enjoy this episode. Hello, Aparajita. I'm so happy to
Hi,
have you
hi.
for this conversation, and I think it's a great topic. And all of us are working women, and many of us go to our workplaces every day. And this is a topic of concern for many people because the workforces in India have increased to a very large extent, and it's very relevant. So, thank you for joining in, and I'm looking forward to this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nazneen. And it's my pleasure to be here today to talk about something which is very close to my heart, right? Mental health is something that I'm preaching, I am doing it, right? So it's good to be talking about something which is very, very important in today's time. So thank you for having me here.
Yeah. Aparajita, I would ask you that um, बहुत बार we get confused कि interpersonal skills क्या होता है. This is a topic
Hmm.
which is not taught in our schools or colleges, and हम लोग mostly academically ही inclined होते हैं. We are mostly inside our textbooks and reference books, but we forget about interpersonal skills. And many of us do get jobs, do land into jobs, but we don't know how to interact with our fellow colleagues or the leadership or our juniors. तो
Hmm.
इफ आप थोड़ा एक्सप्लेन कर पाए कि इंटरपर्सनल स्किल्स क्या है और इसका इम्पोर्टेंस क्या है व्हेन यू गो एट अ वर्क प्लेस.
Sure, sure. See, to just break it into very simple points and just to know the history of it, we as humans, हम लोग ना social beings होते हैं, right? So we need that social affiliation. So right since the evolution times, you see that we've evolved in a group. So there is a natural affiliation to people around us, and that's the need each and every human has. In today's time, especially when you see post COVID, what is happening is that people have become more nuclear. They have gone more into their shells, right? But the basic human connection is very, very important. Right. So, right from the evolution time, we've seen that people have grown in groups, people have evolved in groups, right? So, there's nothing very different, and it's very natural for anyone to feel that the need of belonging to someone, to belong to a place, to belong to a group, right? So now talking about the interpersonal, it's interpersonal is nothing but the relationship you have with your fellow beings. It can be your spouse, it can be your parents, your friends, your kids, your co-workers, your leadership, your manager, anyone. It can also be the relation you're having with a street vendor, any vendor who is selling you something, right? So the difference comes and the issues arises, as you mentioned, when the skills are not developed to a level where you are conveying your points properly and you are not listening to the other points properly. That's when the issues arise, right? So basically, as human beings, the one very very important skill जो होता है वो यही है कि हम कैसे दूसरे इंसान के साथ बात करते हैं, किस तरीके से हम रहते हैं, एंड हम किस तरीके से प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करते हैं, right? So interpersonal skills is nothing but how you are living with the other person in harmony. That's it. Simple, to be simply put.
करेक्ट. ओके. एंड तो whenever we go to a workplace,
Hmm.
all of us, हम लोग खुद के एक कल्चरल बैकग्राउंड से आते हैं. वी हैव आवर ओन मेंटल फिल्टर्स. we have our own mindset. We've been brought up in a certain way. We come from a particular educational institution, and everybody else at the workplace also has his or her own individual background as such. Now, when we talk of interpersonal skills, I think it is very important that all of us know how to, in the first place, break our mental filters and be open to having a dialogue and open communication with our fellow colleagues. So,
Exactly. Hmm.
right, how can someone do this? खुद के mental filters
Okay.
पर कैसे, biases पर कैसे
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
we can work around this?
Right. See, biasness is something that is very, very prevalent, as you mentioned, that every culture, every person, like the five fingers are not same. Every person working in, say, especially a workplace, are not same.
Yeah,
They have different upbringing. They have different types of food habits, right? Food habits also becomes a very big point of, say, conflict,
yeah,
right? So when we put all these things together, the first and the foremost thing that is absolutely important is that you acknowledge that there is a difference,
hmm,
right? So now what happens is that first step is you acknowledge, yes, ये different है मेरे में, मेरी कल्चर ऐसी है, सामने वाले का कल्चर दूसरे तरीके से है. आई एम अ वेजिटेरियन, यू आर अ नॉन वेजिटेरियन. My say song preference is like this, or my even say the AC setting is different, the other person's is different,
yeah,
right? I'm taking very normal day to day examples here because it's very easy to understand like that.
yeah,
These are the main reasons why the conflicts also arise. Now, take the example of a workplace, right?
hmm,
People come to, say, metro cities, or people coming from, say, the underprivileged background also. They have come up to the space right now that they are also joining the urban work space, right? Now, the very important part over here is inclusivity.
hmm,
And that comes again from acknowledging that yes, there is a difference, but I am not going to let this difference hamper the working relationship.
hmm,
See, again, there's the thin line between how professional you want to be at the workplace and how much of your personal things you want to bring into the वर्क स्पेस, राइट?
hmm,
जैसे कभी कभी हो जाता है right, कि हमारा थॉट एक तरीके से होता है कि हमारे अपब्रिंगिंग ऐसे होता है कि आपको सिखाया गया है कि इसी तरीके से कुछ लोगों से बात किया जाता है, या फिर यू हैव टू स्टे अवे फ्रॉम अ सर्टेन काइंड ऑफ पीपल एंड यू डोंट हैव टू stand up for yourself, don't get into a fight, something like that, right? But now when you enter the workforce, you are there at the workplace, there is this assignment given to you, there is no fault of yours, but you've been told कि
yeah,
ये आपकी गलती है, आप हो सकता है राइट, पता नहीं है. But then over there, हमको क्या सिखाया गया है कभी कि no, you should not pick up any fights. You have to be normal there. You have to calm down, which is very true. But about how assertively you stand up for yourself is also a cultural difference that comes in, right?
hmm,
So just to be mindful that yes, there is a difference. The other person might be different, but you don't have to treat anyone very differently. You have to be
hmm,
mindful of those differences.
hmm, yeah. So talking of differences, okay, I think as you said that when there are two people or when there is a group which is working together, of course there are going to be disagreements, maybe professionally, on projects, on technicalities, on many different things, right? Even things like AC ka temperature, किसी
हाँ.
को क्या चाहिए, there I like these are the things which do come up, and these raise to differences. But uh, I think differences are important sometimes to come to an appropriate conclusion. Do you
Hmm,
agree
hmm.
with this? And like, do you want to say anything about this?
Definitely. See, I'll tell you something about a psychological phenomenon called
Okay.
groupthink. ठीक है, उसमें क्या होता है, कभी 5-10 लोग एक टीम में काम कर रहे हैं. देर आर टू पीपल हु आर मोर इन्फ्लुएंशियल, okay, they
Hmm.
are more assertive, or they look very confident when they say something. So the
Hmm.
other people who feel that they are a little less confident, or they are easily influenced by those people, they'll be like, हाँ इसने ऐसे बोल दिया ना तो ये सही ही होगा, तो let's say yes to them. जो भी
Hmm.
वो बोल रहे हैं, let's go with it. Now, what is the drawback of groupthink is that you are not going to go over limits. You're not going to try something new. You are not going to challenge yourself. जो
Hmm.
है, जो idea है, उसी के साथ आप yes sir या yes करते जाते हो. When you say no, challenges begin, conflicts begin. But when there are conflicts, there is the opportunity for growth.
Hmm.
राइट? अभी
Yeah.
फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक ग्रुप में बोल रहे हैं कि नो वी हैव टू गो बाय दिस प्रोजेक्ट इन दिस वे इटसेल्फ, everyone is like okay whatever you say, but
Mm.
nobody is going to think beyond that. Even if someone has a good idea, they would be like, no, no, this other person has said that this is the right way to go about it, so we will go. This is known as groupthink. When this happens at a workplace, you are not going to push limits. Risk taking behavior reduces. Ultimately, you stop challenging yourself.
Mm.
Right? So when that happens, the overall company growth or the individual growth in a company sort of reduces. You're not pushing those limits for you.
Yeah, and if I may add something to this, um, I think company culture also plays a very important role in promoting positive disagreements. Because
Hmm.
sometimes what happens is a person can be right, or he or she cannot be right. We all tend to experiment and learn from our mistakes. But then एक scapegoat mentality रहता है कि
Hmm.
there has to be uh, like when a group is discussing something, it should be a team effort. But
Hmm.
whenever if the everything falls in place, then it's the team which has done it. But if something goes wrong, then you blame it on the
Oh,
one
that
person
one
who has
person. Yes.
done it. So I think the company culture plays a very important role in promoting the positive dissent part, what we discussed here, right? Okay, speaking of company culture, आई थिंक दो पार्ट है इसमें कि एक ये
Hmm.
है कि एक टॉप टू डाउन अप्रोच एंड देन द अदर इज बॉटम टू अप
Bottom.
अप्रोच,
Yeah.
राइट?
Hmm.
तो what is the role of leadership and company culture, as we spoke broadly, in
Hmm.
promoting positive mental health in the colleagues or in the people who are working for a particular organization?
Sure. See, just talking about मेंटल हेल्थ एट वर्क प्लेस, राइट? इनिशियली आप पहले देखेंगे तो ये सारे कंपनियों में यू नेवर यूज टू हैव दिस सेगमेंट वे पीपल आर लाइक सॉर्ट ऑफ ब्रिंगिंग इन mental health companies and providing therapy or some sort of counseling to the employees. Abhi start hua hai. Now I'll tell you the other side to it. There are few companies who bringing these companies wherein they provide mental health services to their own employees.
Hmm.
Now the difference comes here is that chalo, if there is this person, now let's talk about say when you're going to work, in person work, मतलब आप physically office जा रहे हैं and counselor है आपके company में, ठीक है? आपको क्या बोलना पड़ेगा? किसी एक को तो बोलना पड़ेगा, right? I'm going for an hour to meet maybe the manager. Now, what will happen if that manager or the company space is not very inclusive or they are not very mental health positive? What is going to happen? They're going to shame this person for going to the counselor. So this
Hmm.
is a two-way street that is happening. Even when there is the setup wherein the people can go and seek help, but it might be looked down upon. It's very superficial. Now, just talking about dissent, right? ऊपर ऊपर से बोला जाएगा कि we want all of you to come and talk about yourselves or
Yeah.
any issues that you want, communicate. That is where we are going to grow with that, right? But what happens, कुछ negative बोल दिया या this is not the way to go about it, they will not even acknowledge it. In
Yeah.
most places, there are places where they do. I'm just talking about the majority space wherein there's not even a single acknowledgement given to the dissent, right?
Hmm.
So over time what will happen, मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ या बोल रही हूँ बट कुछ माना नहीं जा रहा है, acknowledge भी नहीं किया जा रहा है, तो why should I even speak up?
Yeah.
So then what will happen, a herd mentality begins. जो भी मैनेजर बोलेगा, जो भी कंपनी बोलेगी, मैं वैसे ही करते जाऊँ, right?
Hmm.
So that is going to lead to say irritability, that is going to lead to stress, that might lead to burnout also, because आप ना अपने वर्क पे concentrate नहीं कर पा रहे. So what will happen ultimately, your productivity is going to reduce. Whatever you're going to work, there's no meaning towards that, right? So the leadership comes into play over here. If the company, if the organization is mental health positive, what they're going to do is they will have open dialogue. They're going to have open conversations with their people, right? They might even have some, say, coffee sessions or just like a chit chat time in which they are not even going to talk about work, but it's just like a जैसे कि हम ऐसे कैजुअली बात नहीं कर लेते कि फैमिली में क्या चल रहा है, व्हाट डू यू डू अपार्ट फ्रॉम योर वर्क, राइट? सो इस तरीके से क्या होता है ना कि बॉन्डिंग बनती है लीडरशिप में एंड एम्प्लॉयज में. सो व्हेन द डिस्टेंस, एंड दिस इज द परसीव्ड डिस्टेंस, कम होता है लीडरशिप एंड एम्प्लॉयज में, तब देर इज अ गुड बैलेंस. अगर ये डिस्टेंस ज्यादा हो, so there's going to be some issues that is created in the workplace.
Yeah. And my first manager, I think when we talk about leadership, people who are at the lower hierarchy usually don't have much to do with the higher leadership. It's just the
Hmm,
culture, it's
hmm.
just the usual emails um, and the town halls which they conduct, जिसमें वो participate करते हैं. But you have a direct relationship with your manager.
Hmm.
So I think my first manager told me, and I remember it very clearly. He said that whenever a person leaves the company, he or she does not leave the company. He or she actually leaves the manager.
Manager.
So it's very important actually for the manager to have a positive relationship with the employee. Sometimes, unfortunately, it happens that the manager starts to um, it happens. I've seen it many times. There are positive good managers also who are working in
Hmm,
the
hmm,
team, who are
hmm.
putting their efforts and who are a part and parcel of whatever the work is being conducted. But then there are sometimes there is no acknowledgement of the work which the colleague or the
True,
employee of the
true.
team has
Hmm.
done, and there is no appropriate credit sharing, and all of this also affects mental health very badly, right? And
Definitely, definitely. Yes.
yeah.
I'll
And
tell you more such examples, the same thing you after you finish
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, please, you go ahead. I just wanted to bring this up.
So there are many many things while like you mentioned, अगर आप काम कर रहे हैं, आपका ड्यू क्रेडिट नहीं मिलता है, what is going to happen? एक बार नहीं हुआ, दो बार नहीं हुआ, then it's going to be like जितना भी मैं काम कर लूं, I'm not going to get enough credit for this. So that leads to demotivation. That leads to say I'm not interested in my work anymore, I'm just on an autopilot mode, right? बस ऑफिस जाना आना, लैपटॉप पे बैठना, बस यही चल रहा है. यू आर नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग मीनिंगफुल देयर. सो व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? यू आर नॉट गोइंग टू कंट्रीब्यूट इफेक्टिवली टू द ग्रोथ ऑफ द कंपनी,
True.
or nor yourself. Not, you're not doing any good to you nor your company,
Hmm.
right? So if you can also see this thing that sometimes a good manager is going to appreciate you in front of everyone and give you a constructive feedback in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of difference because you are given your credit in front of everyone, you're appreciated for everything. But जहां पे बात आती है एक, not criticism but a constructive feedback कि आप private में दे रहे हो, and that's how I think it should be, right? Because पब्लिसाइज कर सकते हो कि ये अच्छा काम किया है या नहीं किया है, पर आपको किसी को इम्प्रूवमेंट करना, बिकॉज यू नेवर नो व्हाट sort of a mindset the other person is in, right? So
Yeah.
this takes a lot of, I'm not saying the role of a manager is also easy, because he or she has to cater to so many people who are very different. They have to understand what the needs of the other
Yeah.
person is and then go accordingly. And as a person in the authority or in a person of a leadership, person has to go through a lot of things himself or herself,
Yeah. True.
right? So if he or she doesn't believe that okay, mental health is important, or there is something known as stress, there is something known as burnout, the person is not going to give due diligence to other people also in
Yeah.
that manner, right? So it's a two-way street.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Managers have their own share of work and all, their own share of stress, and they have to present many things and attend many meetings. And
Yeah.
I completely understand that. Yeah. Okay. Now, when we said that all of us, come from different backgrounds, again to our previous conversation, and everyone has their personal issues, right? And when they step into the workplace, they have to mentally leave all of that behind and then come and sit on the desk and work. Um, but sometimes you tend to step uh, on the other side of the border. Sometimes you tend to get a call from your family for an emergency, or something or the other is going on. Maybe it's in the school of your child, or maybe with your
Yeah.
partner or anything, and you get a call, and then there are colleagues who are listening to things what are happening with you, right? But I think that besides leadership, it is the colleagues with which you work, your cubicle where you sit in. That plays, the people who sit in that cubicle, they play a very important role in motivating you to work positively and to have like a stable mindset while you are there at your workplace. So I would want you to talk a little bit more on this. We talked about the leadership, but then what is the role of the colleagues who are sitting around me, my teammates, to help me in being sane?
Absolutely. You know what? A person sort of spends how much? 9, 10, 11, 12 hours sometimes at a workplace. It is sort of like a family that you're building
Yeah,
away from your own personal family, right? Now, अपने खुद के फैमिली में कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स होते हैं, झगड़ा हो सकता है, ओपिनियंस क्लैश हो सकते हैं, but then you make up and then you come back again.
true.
The same things happen at workplace also. It's just that there has to be a little difference in the personal and the professional approach towards that. And you very rightly said that sometimes the difference or the margin sort of goes away, the boundary goes away, right? जैसे कि अभी घर से कॉल आ गया, and this is happening more often now because of the work from home setup that has come up
Yeah,
more, right? ऑफिस है घर में ही है, so there is no clear demarcation where your office
yeah,
is or where your personal home is,
yeah.
right? So the colleagues make a very very good um, area, or say a setup wherein you can confide in, because at workplace they might be also going through the same things that you are. So
Hmm,
who is the better person to understand or empathize with what you are going on? Because
hmm,
you might have the same manager, you might have the same leadership, you might have the same colleagues that you are pissed off with,
hmm.
right? So they are the best people to understand what exactly you are going through. But again, that relationship can be made or broken by the same people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that happens because maybe people are not authentic enough. People are not listening, actively listening to what the other person has to say.
Hmm,
Right? So there are some things, and there is again the very, very important topic about competition that is very, very much prevalent these days. And इतना ज्यादा in terms of क्या कहते हैं कि मतलब opportunities बहुत हैं, but उससे ज्यादा तो competition है चीजों के लिए.
yeah,
अभी किसको अप्रेजल मिलेगा, किसको कितना परसेंट इंक्रीमेंट मिलेगा, ये सब कुछ चल रहा है उनके दिमाग में, राइट? I would also like, so one of my mentors also told me this thing, that a person, however he or she is in their personal life, might be reflected the same thing in the professional life also. There's no demarcation. हम जितना भी बोल ले, keep your personal life separate, keep your professional life separate, there are certain things that are going to spill over. Why
yeah.
not? Right. So for example, in my personal life, I am having a bad day, right?
Hmm,
Do you think you will be able to cut off from that and work properly in
hmm.
your workspace, or vice versa?
No, 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 no. It's not
It's
possible.
not going to happen. So, the best way to deal with certain differences such as these is to acknowledge first that yes, there is a difference that is going on. I am being, so I'm not in a good mood, राइट? सो हाफ द टाइम क्या वो डिनायल में हो जाता है, नहीं 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 ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, मैं तो सब मेरा सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा है. आप 2 मिनट अपने कलीग के साथ, 2 मिनट अपने फैमिली मेंबर के साथ बात कर लो, अच्छा ये परेशानी हो रही है, देन इट विल बी इजियर टू go ahead with that, because you're dropping it off. I just remember something that my relative once told me, that keep a point near your home and keep a point near your office. ठीक है? आप अपने घर से निकलते हो, ऑफिस का जैकेट जो भी पहनना है, मतलब इट्स अ वर्चुअल, मतलब जस्ट इमेजिनरी जैकेट कि अभी आप काम पे जा रहे हो, वो ट्री से उठाओ, पहनो, ऑफिस जाओ. ऑफिस से जब आ रहे हो, ऑफिस का जो भी कोट आप पहन रहे हो, वो वही ट्री पे निकालो और आ जाओ. It is just some imaginary points, because it sort of
Yeah.
like brings us to this point that you don't have to bring your work to home and home to work. But my question over here for everyone, and even for myself, I sort of think about is it really possible?
Hmm,
Sometimes, yes, but there are things that is not really happening that you can just forget about something. Abhi ghar pe someone is not well, the person is ailing for a long time. Can you switch off? You
hmm.
can't.
It's
On an
difficult. Yeah.
immediate level, it's difficult, right? So the people at the workplace has to understand that, okay, this person is going through something. Empathy is the most important thing. Kindness, understanding that this is what the other person is going through. Okay, let me just cut some slack for this person.
Yeah.
आज मैं थोड़ा सा काम इसका कर लेता हूँ, right? So when you do that, maybe next time the other person is going to help,
Yeah.
right? So if everyone understands this, then it is going to be a very good atmosphere to work in, where people are on the same page.
Hmm.
People with similar, even if they are having different experiences or cultural background, but yet they come to sort of succeed on a similar goal that they develop over the time.
Hmm. That's true. Yeah. Uh, yeah, very well said. And I think in this, I'll just add something. When you said that, you put on the when you put on the jacket of your work, उसको आप टांग के फिर आप घर पर आइए, and then um, I think again the company culture plays a very important role
Yes,
here, because then there have been workplaces, in India, you work for a particular time for 8 hours, let's say 8, 9 hours broadly, and after that also sometimes you're expected to stay back.
yes.
Unfortunately, you're expected to stay back, or you're expected to stay available on your phone. Um, Even if it's like 10 o'clock in the night or 11 o'clock in the night, you're expected to stay available
Hmm.
because calm hai. So sometimes, because of the company culture, it becomes difficult to have a clear demarcation between the personal and professional
Definitely.
life,
Yes.
right?
That is what. In today's time, what that is what is more prevalent now. Maximum workspace. Now, take the example of work from home. It is taken for granted that since you're working from home, there's no set time limit.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So जितना भी fancy sound करता है कि work from home है, it has its own pros and cons. And one of the cons is that there's no proper structural time or a start and the end. That's again the flexibility that work from home offers. If you are meant for it, if it suits you, definitely you can go ahead with it. But there are people who feel that name अगर structured time है कि ये in time है ये out time है, so I can function better.
Hmm.
So that definitely happens, and I absolutely understand that there's no you can't just do that. You can't just cut off from say home or office whenever you want, right?
Hmm.
That is why what we usually do is ठीक है ये everyday हो रहा है, so you have to reevaluate the work that you're doing कि
Yeah.
is it you or is it the company.
Hmm.
इसका क्या मतलब है कि इज इट समथिंग ऑफ योर डूइंग्स कि आपको ऐसे लग रहा है कि आपका नॉलेज कम है जिसके वजह से आपका पेस जो आप जिस तरीके से काम कर रहे हैं वो स्लो है
Hmm.
या फिर you are doing it pretty well but then they are adding on they keep adding on work and it's a never ending thing or they are giving you like quick deadlines and it's not something that you can just fulfill at the last moment, right? So then there comes the evaluation point wherein you are thinking for your own self and that क्या कुछ चीजें ऐसे हैं जो मेरे में जो मैं improve कर सकती हूँ, right? When you know that, okay, self growth and self improvement is happening at the right space, and still I'm not getting my due diligence at office, or I'm not able to cope with the dynamic environment of the office, then you have to reevaluate the environment you are in.
Right. And I think that at the initial stage of the career, of anyone's career, it is very important to hustle. So
Yes.
when you're hustling, it's fine, because you have to give in more
Hmm.
time to the organization, and that's how it is, because we have a lot of competition in our country, and there are a lot of applications for one positions, and you have a job, and probably you should be grateful to it. I completely agree to all of these things, and towards the initial stage, it's very important to hustle, but then um, there has to be a point where get into the flow of the things, and the hustling mentality, you can give a break to yourself, or वो mentality को आप slow down करके, and then you can have like your own personal life as well, because I have seen um, people and managers and colleagues जिनकी personal life is completely, let's say, disrupted, but they are doing very well professionally.
Correct. I very well said, because I know people who the clients also, some of the clients that I deal with, they are doing exceptionally well in their professional life. Okay.
Hmm.
And they were, I'm just giving you this example of one client that, so the client couldn't come to recurrent therapy sessions because the work was so much. And the reason that the client came for therapy is to have to discuss that there was something going on in the relationship,
Okay.
to mend the relationship, to work on the relationship. So ultimately, what was happening is because the career got the spotlight, the relationship was getting, it
Yeah.
was just going down the drain. But see, that's the choice a person has to make at
Hmm.
some point, right?
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, the initial years, it's very important to hustle. Now, let me just take this point to discuss about something. Now, just take the example कि जो अभी fresher है, right?
Hmm.
हम लोग इतना सब Gen Z के बारे में बात करते हैं या फिर जो जो अभी अभी जो new workforce आ रहा है, they are very different from the traditional people who have been there in the workspace for a long time, right? Now I'll tell the example is basically today's generation or the people having say or just going into the working space, um, they are very cut and right. Yes to yes, no to no. They are very assertive कि मना कर देंगे. But if you see people who are having say 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years
Yeah.
experience, वो ना नहीं बोल सकते. वो
Hmm.
नो बोलना कभी सीखे ही नहीं है because the culture was different back then.
Hmm.
No, I'm not saying what is right and what is wrong. To stand up for yourself, definitely it is something. But the other side to this thing is that there is low tolerance.
True.
नहीं हुआ जो
Hmm.
भी मैं सोच रही हूँ, let me quit the job. So let's
Yeah.
go. So resilience is lacking there.
Hmm.
So that is also something that you have to reevaluate. And this is also a pointer for the employers. Because see, when they are hiring people, they have to see certain things. And they can't have the same set of rules that they used to have before. Things are changing, things are dynamic today. The workforce is so this generation that they need to be tackled in a very different way. And
Hmm.
that different way is that you give them a space of open dialogue.
Okay.
जो पहले के टाइम में ऐसा होता था कि नहीं नहीं जो भी बॉस बोलते थे जो भी मैनेजर बोलते थे वी विल डू इट राइट नाउ दे आर वेरी क्रिएटिव creativity is there is exploration of new ideas, right? So if the traditional methods of say a workplace is going on, the new generation is not going to take in, they're not going to feel that this is going to be a right fit, so they will keep changing jobs, so the attrition rate is going to be high for the company.
Hmm.
तो मैन पावर में वापस इन्वेस्ट करने में कंपनी का ही ज्यादा टाइम जाएगा.
True. Right. One thing that was coming to my mind when you were talking this, when we were talking about this, is that uh, will it be a good idea to have a psychologist or let's say a therapist? Therapist might not be a proper word, or a counselor, but a person who understands the mindset of the person, of the other person, to be on the panel, to be on the hiring panel.
Definitely. I'll give you a very, very relevant example. All the armed forces, when they're
Okay.
recruiting, have a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, or probably even a psychiatrist in their panel.
Okay. And it's just for the reason because the HR might not be able to tap onto these things in depth.
Could be, could be. See, HR is also they are very well versed with understanding people. They are also in the PR, like personal relations and public relations part of it, right? That is a separate thing. But now, as a when you're bringing a professional who is just like sort of grown in this field, they know they have the expertise in this field. They can understand the requirements of what the company wants and if this candidate is going to be the right fit for that.
True. Okay.
Right now there are two faces to it. There are two candidates. One candidate is exceptionally good in the hard skills, meaning the subject knowledge, amazing, okay, but the person lacks communication, the person lacks the basic etiquette, how to talk, or just how to be in a group or work in a team. Okay, that
Hmm.
is one part. There's a second person who is average. Not very good, not very bad, but average in the subject knowledge. But the person can work in a team, is subjectable to learning more. What do you think would be the more prevalent thing that the company is going to choose?
Yeah, I think the average person who is able to manage everything. a bit of the
Yeah,
technicality and also the group. Yeah.
exactly. Because in today's time, people are giving more focus to the soft skills like
Hmm.
communication, how they are behaving in a team, how they are sort of able to manage a conflict within the team, rather
Hmm.
than someone who will just be like, no, this is the way it is has to be done. I know it better. So in today's time, a know-it-all is not going to be taken in the company than someone who is willing to learn and grow.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. Um, I think you talk a little bit about all competition already. Competition with the same colleagues that you work with day in and day out, and but then there is always a sense of, oh, he or she is my competitor, or I have to, do
Hmm.
better than him or her, and sometimes the team spirit gets a little bit affected. So, how can someone cope with this mindset of competition and going up in the hierarchical positions and still being good and kind and empathetic to the colleagues with whom he or she is working with?
Yeah. So you know what, the biggest competitor a person can have is their own selves,
Hmm.
right? So sometimes what happens is that the external fight that we might be having with a colleague might stem from something that we are fighting internally with us,
Okay.
right? So for example, um the other person got, say, a credit for something, or the person got promoted but I did not, राइट? देयर इज अ वैलिड रीजन कि हमने भी उतना ही काम किया है पर फिर भी उसको ज्यादा मिला है, राइट?
Hmm.
सो इंस्टेड there would be, again, there might be two types of people who might be like, ऐसे कैसे हो गया, this is not something which is good, I am going to leave this job because nobody gives me credit. That person is also fair. Then comes this thing, okay, there might be some reason why the company has not given me the promotion and has given the other person promotion.
Hmm.
So the other person is going to be more self reflective. Okay, what next can I do? Let me take a feedback. What more I can do? So there are two types of people again. Now it's a choice in which category we want to fall in, right? So
Right.
the competition first of all arises within. कि कभी हमारे जो blocks होते हैं, हमारे खुद के biases होते हैं, that makes us sometimes even feel jealous of the other person at the work. It's a
Hmm.
common feeling, and we absolutely agree it does happen, and we acknowledge and then empathize with people who feel jealous of the other people. Now, the root cause is something that we have to find out. Why am I feeling jealous?
Hmm.
When you start looking inwards and working on your thing, the external competition is going to reduce
Hmm.
because you
Yeah.
are going to be working on yourself, you're going to upgrade, you're going to upskill. Definitely, when you do that, people are going to notice you. The leadership is going to notice you,
Yeah.
right? Then ultimately you are in the right track of your self growth. Person who invests in themselves ultimately is going to be seen and they're going to be succeed, right?
Hmm.
So I think the way how you can tackle, say, competition, external competition, is to have a sense of सेल्फ रिफ्लेक्टिव नेचर टुवर्ड्स आवर ओन सेल्फ. क्या आप पहले देखो कुछ ऐसी चीजें हैं जो मैं पहले वर्क कर सकती हूँ खुद
Hmm.
पे, देन लेट्स गो टू द अदर पर्सन.
Right. Yeah, very well said. और एक छोटी चीज which I would want to add here is कि the culture of discussing salaries, the culture of discussing the percentage increments that everybody is getting, um, should be totally abolished, because people are
Hmm.
satisfied until they don't know what the other person is having. That is also a
True,
mindset
true.
which is,
Yes.
so I think this is something which as a company culture should be promoted, like very very with very strict idea, like a very very strict
True,
norm it
true,
should
true.
be, although it is there everywhere on paper, but there are many things on the paper. And we and we are very smart in overlooking at all those things, and then
There is
mostly,
this line that comes there: do not discuss your salary with your colleagues, and
yeah.
that's a. Uh,
Yeah, but it's just there.
it
It's
happens.
just there. Yeah,
It's
and
just there.
everybody actually knows what the other person is getting, and it's a in the hush hush tone. Also, it's a very huge discussion during the increment time, and I
Definitely,
think,
definitely.
yeah, this culture should be evaluated very often, and people should have a dialogue, especially from the leadership, that this should not
Hmm,
be
hmm, hmm.
accepted. Yeah. Okay.
See, there's a different There are multiple ways actually how we can look at this thing, right? Either a person comes in with X amount of experience and say, do teen people with the same experience comes in.
Hmm.
Now, do you really think that the skill set is going to be the same? It can be different. Okay, so when the skill set is different, see, again, this is a very subjective thing depending on company how they are going. I know few people that when they joined and other people also joined at the same time had varied salaries.
Hmm.
Okay, so now the question comes up that people joining at the same position in the same department, should they be having same salary or a different salary,
Yeah.
right? And this is अगर किसी को पता नहीं चलता है इट्स वेल एंड गुड, पर क्या होता है ना कि इन टुडेज टाइम सबको पता चल ही जाता है कि सामने वाले का सैलरी क्या है, एंड देन दैट्स व्हेन द कंपटीशन, द इंटरनल रिफ्ट,
Yeah.
कॉन्फ्लिक्ट्स बिगिन विद द
Hmm.
अदर पीपल.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think the reason why we are discussing all of this is it's like we are not teaching any organization how to function. It's just that our topic of discussion is the mental health of a positive mental health of the individuals who are at your workplace, and that's the only purpose of having this conversation. So I would
Exactly,
just,
just
yeah,
throwing light that this is something employees think about.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. You also touched upon a little bit about coping with monotony,
Hmm.
right? And I think it's very important that हम लोग एक monotony के साथ comfortable हो.
Hmm.
It becomes very, it's a little kind of a discomfort initially जब आप एक workplace पर हो, you realize over a period of time that okay, you have your work and then you have to be punch in at a particular time, punch out at a particular time, you know, you have to have break at a particular time, you have to have meet your deadlines, and that is the monotony of life that gradually steps in. And I think that takes a very big toll on someone's mindset, mental health. And then people are just everything is okay, everything goes okay in someone's life. Professionally, he or she is making growth, personally also everything is fine, but it is just the monotony that is probably killing him or her.
Hmm.
Right.
True,
um,
true, true. Right.
how to cope with this, how can someone understand the importance of monotony, and how to cope with this positively?
Right. See, monotony is something that happens when you're doing the repetitive task in a repeated fashion, right? कि आप 8 बजे ऑफिस जाते हो, फिर 9 बजे आपका ये मीटिंग होता है, या फिर ठीक है इंटरनली कुछ कुछ चेंजेस हो सकते हैं, बट इट्स द सेम रट that you're going on and on and on, right? Sometimes the monotony can lead to being your comfort zone also. How? When you
Hmm.
do the repeated task again and again and again, what is going to happen? You're going to be comfortable with it,
Hmm.
right? And once you're comfortable and you have created a comfort zone over there, it's very difficult for you to try something new,
Yeah.
right? So, but I understand there are some work that needs to be done on a regular basis. Every day is the same thing that you're doing, right? Again, the first point would be कि आप पहले acknowledge करो कि yes, I am doing the same thing again and again. Okay. Ask yourself, is there anything I can do about it?
Hmm.
That you can do about it, definitely make changes in there. But there are times when you can't. See, money is a very important factor. You can't do without it.
Yeah.
Doing the jobs because they have to like meet the ends, right? So what happens then is that you take out time when you are away or when you come back home, do something for your own self. You change the
Hmm.
perspective from serving others to serving your own self, right? You indulge in something that you probably like. You love reading, you read for a bit, go for a jog, exercise, paint, sing, cook, do whatever that makes you a bit happy, because that is the little different things that you do to break the monotony of the work life, right?
Yeah.
So see, sometimes we can't blame because the job role is as such, right? If there is a company where the job role keeps changing, there's still something that is happening. But again, when the job role is also not fixed, it has led to people not being comfortable at work or not being able to focus on it. So there are
Hmm.
again multiple ways how people deal with it, right?
Hmm.
So talking about monotony again, it is that how you are wanting to look at it. Do you want to look at it as comfort zone? Do you want to challenge it? Do you want to do something up when that work is not happening so that you feel a little good about yourself? Because
Hmm.
that is your work, because you're doing to earn money. This is something that I'm doing for myself, for my own sanity, for my own mental health and physical health.
Hmm. Right. Okay. And I was just thinking when you were talking, ki, finding to do something what you love doing. It could be reading, cooking, exercising, or anything. Uh, but sometimes there are people who are involved in these activities a lot,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
they are involved in all of these things outside work. So they have
Yes.
their own professional life, and then they have a personal life in which they pursue these things. But then, as we talked earlier, ki sometimes the boundary you keep on, you tend to discuss what is happening in your personal life as well with your colleagues. And then in the world of social media, things cannot be hidden because you're posting so many things on your social media feeds and everywhere. um, Sometimes what happens is that your colleagues or your company looks down upon you for being involved in something, an activity that is not within the scope of your actual professional work. And
Hmm. Hmm.
then
Hmm.
you're tagged as probably being not focused, and you have interests elsewhere and all of this. I don't know from where this mindset or from where this culture comes up. This is
True.
not, yeah, this is something very very prevalent in our workplaces, especially in our side of the world.
Hmm.
It's
True.
probably yeah, probably it's not true in the Western world, but it's in our side of the world. It's unfortunately it's very relevant. Maybe the things are changing and people are being open-eyed, but I think it's very important that people accept these things as hobbies and as passion projects. And I think the companies, I know many Indian companies who promote passion projects, and in fact who
Yes.
sponsor passion
Yes. Yes.
projects as well. And but that is on another level. We cannot expect every
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
organization to do that.
True.
But
True.
yeah, but at least I think some acceptance, some level of acceptance or acknowledgement, um, words of encouragement probably could play a very important role. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know what? So, see, again, this stems from the long-lasting societal norms that have started that when you're working, that is your life,
Mm,
right? आपका काम है कि आप काम करें, आप पैसे कमाएं. मस्ती, comfort, वो सब secondary चीज होती है, right?
hmm,
Things are changing for the good, and that's a good thing because now you imagine our parents' time. What used to happen was that the work had nothing to do apart from life. Sometimes it was also happening कि कुछ कभी वेकेशंस पे चल लिए वो भी ऐसा लगता था कि ओ मेरे को काम से छुट्टी लेके वेकेशन में जाना है. That used to be a bigger thing.
yeah, it was a guilt.
Now
It was a guilt to take.
guilt, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a big thing back then. Now every second weekend people need for a weekend short weekend trip, just relax, rewind, and come back so that they can put their focus on the now the mindset shift that has to come from the employer side is that अगर वो काम नहीं करेंगे वैसा अपने आप पे कॉन्सेंट्रेट नहीं करेंगे वो चीजें नहीं करेंगे जो उनको पसंद है that is going to impact the work. Do you need that? No, right? So this is the mind shift the companies have to bring about, that let them do whatever people have to do to sort of like rewind so that they can put their entire focus in the.
Yeah.
So I think this is something that has to come from each one's perspective, the leadership, the manager, because the manager himself or herself has to will also be going through the same thing back then. This question actually this reminds me of something that um बात हो जाती है मैनेजर्स के साथ सिंस आई टेक ट्रेनिंग्स एंड एवरीथिंग कभी बात हो जाती है दिया कीजिए आई नो यू हैव अ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपीरियंस you can try this also this way XYZ way different way like हमको तो ऐसे नहीं बोला गया था जब हम लोग ऐसे थे तो हम क्यों बोले ऐसे. I understand them.
Hmm.
I understand where this is coming from because they are also at a place where they might have not heard. It's not very natural for them to be hearing these things. अगर कभी सुना ही नहीं है तो वो
Yeah.
कैसे implement करेंगे? So it takes a lot of efforts on the manager's part, and I definitely feel for them that there's a lot of work for them also because a lot of shackles they are breaking that they have learned. to be giving to their team members, right? So at the
Hmm.
same point, the team members also should cut some slack to their managers, because they are also learning and growing the same way you are, right? So this is the dynamics that is playing.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Okay. Um, Now I think my last question to you would be, um, let's say there's a person and
Hmm,
he or she is struggling mentally. He or she is having a mental health problem because of work, because of personal issue, and somebody at office or at his or her workplace has identified, sees that okay, this person is struggling maybe with productivity, with efficiency, or you know, timeliness,
self
whatever. There's a
motivation,
problem,
yeah. Hmm.
self motivation, whatever. What is the role of an organization as a whole to address this issue of
Hmm,
mental
hmm.
health of a person when it is recognized, when it is identified?
Right. Okay. So, the route over here is to have a good team bonding, right? So, I'm not saying that one person has to be very close to each and every person in the team, but at least one person, if there is there
Hmm.
that you can confide in, it would be a better way to manage the things that you're going through, right? Now,
Okay.
there are a lot of mental health concerns that happen at workplace. Like you mentioned, there can be, say, stress because the workload is so much. You are burnt out. Burnout basically means that you are continuously working for a long time. You're not taking break, and it's taking a toll on your mental health and your physical health. You stop eating, your sleep is bad, you don't sleep and eat on time, right? And you don't focus on your self care. So these are some of the signs that you can start to understand that something is wrong.
Hmm.
And if you see your colleague having or going through something like this, you can just start a conversation. Is everything okay? Do you want to talk about something? So when you do that, the person would be like, okay, let me give it a try at least. I'm not saying the person will talk unless
Hmm.
and until there is a trust. That is why the root cause is that the team bonding has to be very good,
Yeah.
right? So if there's someone in the team and you recognize these are some of the symptoms that you can visibly see that their productivity is going on, they are frequently absent to work, or they're taking sick leaves, or there are some excuses, continuous excuses that come in, because of which the deadlines are not met, or some work is not getting done, right? These are some of the signs that you can tap on. You can understand that something is going wrong over here. Be patient, be considerate, be you can initiate the dialogue. Don't force. You cannot force someone to talk about it. Just be there. You
Hmm.
can just tell them, I'm here if you want to talk about something,
Yeah.
right? So that is where. Now coming to the organization, how organization can, I wouldn't say that the main job of organization would be the preventative care for this, right?
Yeah.
Now, not just when things have happened, but to make sure things don't happen, concerns don't get worse, they can take preventative steps. How?
Absolutely.
Definitely having mental health professionals in the company that they can take help of. They can provide trainings in the companies for,
Hmm.
say stress management, time management, or there can be times when they can initiate small batches conversation with them, like a coffee session or just like a chit chat thing, like I mentioned before. They can have like a games day wherein they're just relaxing, and to be okay with taking breaks,
Hmm.
right? So that is sort of underrated. Taking breaks is underrated, right? So it is a lot of studies have also proven that when you take breaks, say maybe a couple of hours, you take say 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes break, it is going to rejuvenate you. You're going to work better. You're going to be more focused at your work,
Hmm.
right? So these are some of the things that the company can do. And work wise, they can also have the flexibility. Sometimes people just don't want to go to office because of, see, in in this space, in the Asian space, what we talk about is, if we say that I'm not feeling like going to office, मुझे मन नहीं कर रहा है जाने का, या I'm just feeling very sad today, I don't want to go to office, पर मैं घर से काम कर सकती हूँ, right? This is not being open,
Hmm.
right? So there are some of the ways. I understand it can be taken for granted also, these things. So The only thing is when someone says that they can work from home or they can have that flexibility that the company can provide कि आप hybrid culture में work कर सकते हैं. That is one of the things. Second thing that the organization can do is um, give these self uh, learning prospects, right? Some of the people are stagnated in the roles that they're doing, right? They feel that मैं 2-3 साल से एक ही चीज कर रही हूँ या कर रहा हूँ, and I'm in that same rut, the monotony of it. Give them something to learn. Give
Hmm.
them some courses, something that they can indulge themselves in, something that they can upskill about. क्योंकि क्या होता है ना कि सेम वर्क स्पेस में भी जब एक चैलेंजिंग चीज आ जाती है, कभी एक न्यू चीज आ जाती है, people are again motivated. Oh, there's something new happening.
Yeah.
Oh, let me get on board with that. Let me do something new. Right? So these are some of the things that the organization can do um, for the team members.
Yeah. Okay. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for me, with all that you said, was mutual trust. The
Yes.
organization should trust the employees that if he or she is saying that he or she is not feeling well, then that's true. uh,
Yes.
and and also the employee should trust the organization that whenever you are required to do a particular job, it's because it's the need
Yeah,
of the hour and you have to be there for the so it's
exactly.
both ways. It works both ways. Yeah. Okay.
Definitely, it's a two-way street. You give trust, you take trust. That's how it is,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So
Yeah. Is there anything else, Aparajita, that you would want to add to this conversation?
definitely, definitely. So see, like we mentioned, what the organization should be doing about, say, how to be inclusive about mental health, there are certain things that us people who are working
Hmm.
can do to just safeguard or just to have a healthy living or just
Hmm.
have a good well-being, overall well-being.
Hmm.
Number one is take care of yourself. Now when I say take care of yourself, it means nutritionally, biologically, physically, even in the mental health part of it. If you feel that self care is sort of reducing somewhere, you build that thing for your own self.
Hmm.
Self care doesn't just mean कि आप कुछ एक आध दिन वीक में एक दो बार आपने कुछ कर लिया. Maybe you just take 10-15 minutes of the day's entire day's time for your own self. Just sit with yourself, probably read a book, meditate, or just do something that you feel is just for your own self.
Hmm.
Nobody else is, you're not doing it for anyone. So that reflecting part wherein you give that time to yourself is very, very important. Second, always sort of don't be afraid to try new things. But again, now when we do that, it sometimes makes us believe the biases that we have in our mind. Oh, am I
Hmm.
capable of doing it? Oh, I can I even do it? There's so much competition. Why is someone going to choose me for a particular project, or even like sending, say, for some site visit or something like that, right? So work on your negative talk. Work on the
Hmm.
negative self beliefs that have been developed over time. So if you
Hmm.
feel that you are going through some things and some of the symptoms that we already spoke about, please reach out to mental health professional. You can seek help because you're not alone in this, right? People, this is something that I want to tell to everyone, that everyone goes through something or the other, right? Some people can figure things out on their own. That is also okay. Some people need a little bit of external help, and that is also absolutely fine, right? So if you feel that there's something bothering you and there's something that is stopping you from achieving things that you want to, definitely there's something, this is the step that you can take, right? So if every people who are listening to this particular podcast just understand that whatever you do things for your own self, for your own happiness, for your own peace that you want to bring in. If you are peaceful inside to your own self, you're going to bring peace in the external world, maybe for your family, for your workspace also, right? So choose yourself. That's what I would want to say.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aparajita. I had a great time talking to you on this very, very important topic, and a topic which is very close to my heart as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nazin. It was a wonderful time talking to you also, and there were wonderful things that you mentioned about it, right? So it's I love being here, and thank you for inviting.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.